Hey everyone, Noah here for ExtremeTerrain. This is the CSF OE replacement radiator fitting the 07 to 18 Jeep Wrangler JK. Now, this radiator is a perfect choice for someone shopping for a direct drop-in replacement to ditch their clogged or leaky original unit. If you've got temperature issues or coolant leaks on your rig, there are a few things that could be causing the problem, and a lot of times all those issues stem from the radiator. Now the radiator sits right up front, it takes a beating from crap flying at you down the road, and they hold the majority of your coolant, which all things considered makes it a really crucial part of the vehicle's basic function. So when they go bad, it's usually a pretty big deal, and that's where something like this radiator from CSF shines. It's drop-in, so you don't need to have custom flanges welded or make a different fan shroud for it or anything like that. All the hoses are in the factory locations, so there isn't any adaptation needed either. Now this is a single row radiator, so it's pretty darn slim, and it doesn't take up a lot of space as well, just like that crusty factory one. Looking at the construction of this radiator, it's designed to be the same as OEM, so you know it's going to be built right. It does have a crossflow design, which is going to circulate coolant well and keep the temps down. Now the actual radiator core itself is made from aluminum, which means it's not going to rust like steel would. It has a really big surface area, so it's going to do a great job keeping everything inside cool as well, which is its main function. Now the end tanks are high-grade plastic, and that's going to keep the price down but still be durable and heat resistant. All in all, it's a great OEM build quality, and you can definitely be confident in this guy getting the job done. This radiator from CSF comes in around $170, and I feel that a sub $200 price point for a drop-in radiator is impressive, especially when you need it in a pinch. Usually with radiator issues, your rig is down and out, so an affordable unit that's plug and play is a great solution. This guy is going to have an install difficulty of only 1 out of 3 wrenches and an hour for the install time. Now replacing radiators can be really messy, so make sure you've got a nice drain pan and some towels ready in case you make a big mess. I would always recommend changing the coolant out as well rather than reusing the stuff you take out. Also, now would be a great time to do a coolant flush as well. Next up, we have an XT customer who's going to walk you through the install process for this radiator on their own vehicle so you can get a closer look at what you need to get the install done.
For today's thing, we're going to use a replacement of our radiator. We're going to use the hose clamp tools. If you don't have those, you can use a regular wrench. It's just a little bit harder. We have 2 different ratchet sizes, a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. I do have my torque wrench, just in case we need that. I have a flathead because that's how I like to take off my clamps on my air intake. Just some extenders to get into those hard to reach places. A 1/4 inch, swivel arm to help us get to those hard to reach places too. I have a couple of sockets, the 8mm and 10mm, and just in case I need them, also another 10mm and 8mm. And then of course I have my handy dandy magnetic parts tray, so that way I do not lose them, they just stick there. Alright, today we're going to be replacing the radiator on this 2013 Jeep JKU Sahara Edition. It is a 4-door. There she is. So this has been a part in a long line of fixings, but today is the radiator because it was leaking. Alright, so here we have the new parts. I have not taken the Jeep apart yet, but I did show you earlier what we were replacing. This is the radiator. It's a CSF OEM part. I did get the replacement hoses. I have the upper hose and the lower hose. It was recommended to replace all that. So today we're going to start off by taking the upper, the air intake. So first you have to take off these clamps here. So you can either use an 8mm with this or a flathead screwdriver, which is what I'm using here just because it's a little bit easier. Loosen that up. It doesn't have to be too loose. You don't want it to come off completely. There's another one on this side. Alright, so that's pretty loose. Make sure you disconnect the hose here. And this is already popped out because I did take the intake off earlier when I was trying to diagnose my Jeep as to what was wrong. So this is a 10mm bolt. There's 2 of them, but the other one, it's cracked, so it's not there. But you just use a 10mm, take that out. And you're just gonna go ahead and pop this off here. Pop it off on the other side. Lift it out nice and easy. Just connect this wiring down here. It's got a little tab, you're just gonna press that and it comes right out. And again, store it away nice and safe. Now if you want, you can take this part out too. You would disconnect this hose right here. Just kind of wiggle it out a little bit and it comes right off. If not, if you want it really out of the way, you can also take off the clamps here. There are 3 of them. And it just comes off, just to get it out of the way. You can leave that in there, but I wouldn't because it's going to get dirty. You can just take that off. Alright, so now that all that's taken care of, we're going to start by taking off these little pins here. They just hold the grill in place because we are going to need to access some bolts that are behind that. So let's start with that. I was going to use a pry bar for these, but you can use just a flathead screwdriver for it as well. And they should just pop out like so. So there's a total of 6 on for the grill. And you just kind of work it in there to pop it out. Just be careful not to get too overzealous or you're going to have one missing like we do here. So just be careful with those. So if you're not too careful, you can easily take them apart. But it just pops back in. It's not a big deal. So now that those are done, it should just lift back like so. And then you just gotta come in here and disconnect your light switches. We finally figured it out. So we're able to get this off. It's already pulled up. So once it's pulled up, you're gonna press here on this tab and it should just slide right off. If you're struggling for whatever reason to get these off, some will do, I know I do sometimes, you can take the whole thing off and just have the bulb out of the housing. I wouldn't recommend that because then you have your bulb exposed and you don't want it to get broken or anything like that. So that's how I would recommend that, just if you're struggling with it. So we've already gone ahead and popped off the tab on this other side. So it's just gonna slide right off, like so. And you're just gonna take your grill off and set it to the side, somewhere safe so it doesn't get damaged. So you can use a screwdriver. So they do sell a special tool to take these pins off. I'm going to try our pry bar here just because it has similar properties. I don't know that it'll work, but it might. Yeah, it works a lot better. Just go ahead and stick it in there. And just be careful not to damage them. And that just pops right off. So see this drain bit right here? Right here. You're gonna go ahead and open that up to drain the reservoir on the radiator. If for some reason, like for example mine, it doesn't have anything in it because it was leaking, so there is nothing to drain, you would go ahead and open that. You would just turn it counterclockwise so that that little knob is sitting horizontal. Other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking the top bits out, the hoses and the radiator fan. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and take off our coolant reservoir. We're gonna start by disconnecting the hose. I'm going to get on top of my Jeep here because I cannot see. So from what I've seen, this just lifts up. Yes. So lifts up carefully, up and out, just like so. So I'm just gonna inspect it, make sure that it's clean, there's nothing leaking. This is relatively new. I did have to get this replaced about 5 years ago under warranty. But as you can see, it's in fairly decent shape, so there's nothing too much to worry about. I don't need to replace it. I'm just going to put that to the side. So next, I'm going to go ahead and get the radiator fan disconnected and pull it out, as well as our hoses, both the upper and lower ones. And then I'll show you guys how we're going to use that clamp tool. But I'm going to start with the fan. So first you'll want to go ahead and disconnect it here. This should just pop right off. Carefully, of course. Maybe not.
No red tabs.
No red tabs on this one. So it just comes off. There are 2 bolts on the radiator fan. There's one right here and one on the other side. These are 8 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little wrench here. So just double checking my bits. This is an 8 millimeter. Got it set on. And I'm just gonna reach in here. If you're having problems with it, you can pull out your angle bit, because it is in a tight spot. There is some stuff in the way for that particular drill bit. Particular screw. Sorry guys, I'm not a professional, okay? So if you hear me messing up on terminology, this doesn't fit on that. There we go. Makes it a lot easier. This is really stuck in there, guys. Now this one on the other side is a little bit easier to get to, so I'm going to go ahead and take off this bit here. Oh,
Swivel.
the swivel. Sorry guys, getting not professional. I know what it does, I don't always remember what it's called. And go ahead and take these off. So I got both of them off. One thing I did forget to mention earlier, that's a step that we did miss, but anytime you're working on your car, besides getting bugs on yourself, you're going to want to disconnect the battery so that way you don't do anything weird to the car. So I've already disconnected it here. So back to our radiator fan. Now that it's unbolted, it should just slide out like so. Just be careful not to. There's a lot of little things that it's going to get caught on. In this case, it's getting caught on the hose. Just wiggle it around a little bit. And it should just come out. Again, just carefully put it to the side so it doesn't get broken. Alright, so we got our hose clamp. So you're going to open it up, make sure it's open like this. You can use left-handed or right-handed. So as you do this, this is a really cool tool. So you do that, put it there, and then you clamp it shut. And it holds it for you. I think that's as far as that one goes. So now that we have that clamped, we're going to go ahead and slide it back. Carefully, just in case it comes off. You don't want to pinch your fingers because it hurts a lot because there's a lot of pressure on them. Oops. And you're just going to slide this hose off. Be careful. It might spill coolant everywhere if there's some left in this tube. These are really old tubes. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do that with this other clamp down here. Again, we're going to set it up. And you're going to pump. This tool is really cool. Because before when we would use a regular wrench, it was a big old mess to take it off. So you go ahead and bring that down onto the hose. So now we're going to work on the lower radiator hose. Sorry for all the noise. Just same process. We're going to clamp it and get it taken off. Again, this is going to be a little bit tough because it's Again, these are really old hoses, so they are very much attached to their ports. I just want to point out here while we're working on that back hose over there, this one is broken. As you can see, it's got a little bit of chips in it. Again, this is a really old part. Just be careful, it is going to drain. And again, that's the beauty of these clips, is that it's got a nice long attachment here. So if it's stuck, you can use a flathead screwdriver to kind of get underneath and break that seal. I know it's kind of hard to see. Just be careful not to scratch your parts up too much, because it's aluminum, so you don't want to damage it. So I just want to go ahead and show you that it was in fact our radiator that was broken. If you can see here, this is all grain. This is where the leak was. Again, this is an older Jeep, so while I am frustrated about it, it's just something that was bound to happen. But yeah, that's why we're fixing it today. Take this off. It's still in good shape. So for this next segment, we're going to be taking off these two 10mm bolts. There's one right here and one right here. This is the transmission cooler. So you're just going to take those two off. There's one here, but this one doesn't come off because it goes to the transmission lines. And then on this side, for whatever reason, there is an 8mm bolt. You're going to take that off as well. This is going to allow us to be able to reach the other bolts to the radiator itself. So those are a little bit harder to get to. There's one down there, another one on the other side, one up here, and of course on the other side. So you'll want to go ahead and undo those. So we're going to start by taking our 10mm off first. So I'm going to go ahead and swap out my socket for my 10mm. Just right here. I raised it about 80 pounds for anything that doesn't have a specification, right? So you were good. But it is fairly loose on this side. So now we're going to go ahead and swap sockets to the 8mm and start working on that other bolt. Go ahead and put in your toolbox. So I'm going to go ahead and so this does lean forward, so just be very careful with it. It doesn't come out. So you can just lean it a little bit forward as we did here. If you want, I have seen some people use a bungee cord to kind of hold it in place out of the way, so that way it's not damaging anything or it's not getting damaged. That's completely up to you and how you want to do it. As you can see, you can tell we live in the desert because we got a nice little friend that decided to die back there.
Now what I'm doing is taking off the 8mm bolts
on the radiator itself, since we already got that out. If you're having a hard time reaching it, you can use your angle bit to get to it if it's a little bit hard to get to. These are rather difficult to get to. They didn't make it easy, but we do have a small wrench. You can also use a regular wrench if you want, an 8mm one to get to that. Alright, we put the swivel on there. Sorry guys, it's called a swivel. These are really sticky to get to, guys. Alright, so we got one off. That's what it looks like. Go ahead and put that in our little thing over here. So there's two 10mm bolts up here, one on the other side, and then there's an 8mm bolt. I don't know if you can see it from this angle. I'm gonna bring it up top. But in between these cooling lines here, We're gonna start with the 10mm bolts first.
There you go.
So as I mentioned earlier, these do need to come off because they are attached to the radiator. They're just little bits to keep them fine. So again, I'm going to go ahead and go in with my pry bar. Oops. Just be careful not to damage anything while you're pulling it out. So we'll wiggle it out. If you're really struggling, you can use a wrench to kind of get in there. Oh. So that one broke right off. That's not how you want to take that off, but I mean, those are pretty cheap to replace, but this does need to come off. Yeah. So again, just be careful with it. You don't want to break it. We might just have to super glue that back together. Alright, so now we're going to go on the other side. So you want to really jam this in there. However you can, just be very careful not to damage anything else. Oops, that one broke too. That's okay. We will fix and or replace it later. Oh, well, that's one way to do it. Again, we're going to fix those later. We'll replace them. Alright, so once these are popped out, you're going to go ahead and tuck them back just so that they're out of the way, because they do come off with the radiator. You're going to put them on the new radiator. So now that everything for the most part is loosened, I did bungee my transmission cooler just so it's kind of got support, it's not kind of free floating everywhere, because we don't want it to get damaged. I'm not going to lift it right now, but you can come in here and start lifting it to get access to those 8mm in the back. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that next. So I'm going to hold the camera while my husband gets in there because I cannot lift and unscrew at the same time. Off. I'm going to switch over to the other side. Yeah, it's off. Just let it fall. Alright, we got it. Alright, so now now everything's unhooked. It should just slide out. So my husband's going to go ahead and do that because I do that, so just be careful when sliding it out. So there are some hoses that are attached to the radiator. That's just a push pin. You'll just go ahead and take that off. So in theory, this should just slide right out. Just be very careful not to damage. Alright guys, I remember there's one more 8mm. It's kind of a butt to get to, but it's right there.
It's like a straight shot right from the side?
Yes, you can access it from right here. Using your extender. Up, you're in the wrong spot. To right there. Nope. There you go. And it's most likely just gonna fall off it. I don't know how the guy took it off, but just carefully take that bracket off. Okay, now that we're officially unbolted from everything, just be careful that where you're sliding that up because you're gonna hit the front thing. You don't want to punch a hole in that. might just still be that bracket. Because he took it off completely. It's gonna want to snag on everything a little bit. And there you have it. Again, I just want to give you back a close-up of the front. This is how it looks. It's pretty dirty. You're gonna take that a little bit off and it's gonna go in the new part. So I'm just gonna show you a side-by-side. This is a side-by-side. Obviously this is the old one here on the left, the new one on the right. Things still seem to line up pretty well. You're gonna want to take off these here to put on the new one, the new part. Oops, don't let it fall. So you'll go ahead and take these parts off here. And of course your little flappy bits that were there too. Just pop those on. Go ahead and put the spacers on. We're gonna put the little panel thingies on here. It should line up just nicely, like so. Everything lines up real good. It's upside down. Make sure you put it the right way up. Alright, so everything lines up, your spacers are there. It's nice and shiny new, it's not dirty, there's no holes on it. Nice. So you're going to go ahead and drop it in. Carefully, of course, not to. So now you're just going to carefully slide that back in there, careful not to damage the front bit here. Just kind of wiggle it in. Careful with those pipes up here in front, these hoses here. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and put that bracket back on. Line up your things. So here we're tightening back that bracket that was at the bottom with the 8mm. It's nice and tight. The lines are lined up with it. That's pretty much how that went. Next we are
bolts.
gonna go ahead and put in those lower 8mm bolts. Because they are the toughest part to get to. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt the condenser to the radiator first, so that way we can get that it's kind of attached to it and out of the way. And then once that's done, you can go ahead and line it up. But we're gonna do that first. Line up those first 4 8mm bolts. Alright, so we went ahead and seated all the 8mm bolts because they just weren't lining up, and that was a lot to line up, especially with the things. So we're going ahead and screwing everything in. Now there weren't any torque specifications on this that we could find. So once everything's attached, you can kind of line up the plastic feet here. So we're going through the bottom ones. Right now before we seat it so that we have easy access to it.
That's in.
They're all nice and tight. Do you want to double check them? So now that they're all tightened, we're going to go through and double check that they're tight and secure. All the 8mm bolts. Now that you have everything bolted down, you're going to go ahead and seat the feet into these holes here. Carefully. These plastic bits are gonna get in the way. Oops. Carefully. Carefully. And this should just pop right in. If you really wanted to at this point now, you could definitely pop these back in here. Go ahead and replace that 8mm bolt that went in between those cooling lines.
There we go.
Alright, so that's not tightened down. You want to pop those other little thingies like this. That was.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to go ahead and pop any of these little rivets that you popped out, you go ahead and pop those back in. So you pop this one in here, it just pops in. Nice and carefully, this goes to your fan.
There's one over here.
And there's one down there and you just pop it in. It's already popped in, right?
Yeah.
And now we're going to go ahead and bolt our 10mm right here and on the other side. So that's all screwed in. At this point you can put the fan back in or put your tubes back in. It just really depends. To show you everything's assembled the way it was. You can pop these back in if you didn't damage them. Obviously I broke mine pretty well, so I'll have to find some new ones for that. This one's not broken, so I'll go ahead and we'll pop that one back in. Alright, so you're gonna go ahead and seat your fan back in. We already slid it in. You'll put your 8mm. There's 2 of them.
It's 2.
And that's 2. And you can go ahead and plug your bit back in here and just plugs in.
Okay. No crazy rip tabs. So now let's put the hoses back on.
Yes, we're gonna put the hoses back on next. Here we're putting the bottom hose back on. You're just gonna go ahead and slide that back on there. Wiggle it on there. Wiggle that bottom one on. Like so. We've got some other pliers to try to take that metal bit off. And now it's nice and snug on there. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Be careful with your hands and your fingers. Double check them. That's pretty simple.
I'm gonna adjust it a little bit.
So if you need to make any adjustments from where it popped off, do that now. And now we're gonna put the top hoses on. It goes like that. Number one goes attached to the thermostat, the other one slides on the top here. There's a little bit finagling not to get it on. Just make sure it's on all the way, just like that. Same thing with the one on the thermostat down here. You almost got it. Got it? I know the radiator fan hurts.
Thanks. There's that one.
So same thing, you just take this one first. So you're gonna very carefully take this off. Wedge it off as best as you can without hurting yourself or anybody else. or breaking anything. Just like that. Nice and snug. Alright, so now that's installed, you would go ahead and fill it with coolant. You fill it with coolant. You're gonna go ahead and go and open your bleeder line here, and that just opens with a screwdriver. So you're gonna open this bit here, and that's just gonna let air out as you fill up the system, so that way you're not letting as much air into it. Go ahead and open up that bleeder line. Yeah, you don't have to open it and like pull it out or anything. We almost forgot. Go ahead and slide your bottle back on. Just remember, it just pops in there. Connect your line back up. Alright, now we're going to continue pouring our radiator antifreeze and coolant in there. Slow and steady. I believe the Jeep takes about 2.5 gallons altogether. You can hear the air coming out of the bleeder line. So again, it is highly recommended to omit that bleeder line, as I don't know if you could hear it on the phone or not, but as we're pouring it in, we definitely hear the air filtering out through that bleeder line. Bleeder valve, I should say. So, come around here. So you know it's relatively full once you see coolant coming out of that line. Can you hear it? Okay, so as you can see here, there is coolant coming out of that. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten that up. Not too tight because you don't want to crack it, but just make sure it's nice and snug. Alright, that's all nice and snug there. We're going to go ahead and put the intake back on so that we can turn the Jeep on and get it up to operating temperature that way we can burp it. It's already on an incline here because we are on our driveway. That way we can get all the air out. We're going to go ahead and put this piece back on while we fill the reservoir. While we put the intake back on and stuff. Then can you just pop those little rivets back in?
It's good to go.
Yep. Put your lid back on. Pop your intake hoses back on and your coolant line attached to that. Touch all your hoses back in that corner. Tighten your wings. Again, you can use an 8mm or a flathead, whichever.
To reconnect that sensor.
Yes, don't forget to reconnect your sensors. There's one that goes underneath the intake. So we're gonna go ahead and pop it back in. Just remember we have to attach our plug back in our turn signals. Forget your little red tabs. I don't know if you want to just take that light bulb out. Other way. Don't break it.
No, we have to tap in.
Okay.
That's what I want.
So you go ahead and there's some little tabs on the bottom there. You just pop in.
Okay.
Then you can pop back in as many of your little tabs here that you have. And remember, there's 6 total. If you didn't break any, you have 6. If you did, then you might have less, but let me just go ahead and pop those in. We had a grand total of 5 left over. One of them was definitely broken, so it's not usable anymore. Oh, we do need to screw this back in. Your intake hose right here. Again, there's 2 of them. My other intake hose part is broken, so I do not have that available. But that would require me getting a radiator fan at this point, so. Alright, so now we can go ahead and reconnect the Jeep. Be careful, don't electrocute yourself. So she's all put back together. Now you would just, again, you would continue to fill up the reservoir. If you need to, fill up your radiator, burp the system, and you should be good to go.
That was the CSF OE replacement radiator fitting the 07 to 18 Jeep Wrangler JK. As always, for all things Wrangler, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.